This is the truth about Nigeria's civil war, the Biafran War, that Nigerians have not been told about. The untold truth about the Nigerian Civil War that Nigerians are not told even today in 2025. The elite group of people in the US-led West, this elite group of people that I call the Kolo Cabal, the elite group of people in the global North, they played our leaders against each other. And they sat back and watched while our leaders fought themselves to the death. They have mastered the art and craft, the science of divide and conquer, and they used it against us. And it was effective. They sat back and they watched while our leaders did all the work for them. We were at each other's throat, thinking that what they called the Biafran War, the Civil War, was fought for tribal reasons. But it was not. It was these people that have mastered the craft of divide and conquer that were at work. So when we focus on our leaders, and we do have a right to do that, and blame them, yes, we do. But we are just treating the symptoms. The real disease are these elite group of people in the US-led global North that were pulling the strings behind the scene. How did they do it? In 1960, when Nigeria got independence, that was 15 years after the end of the Second World War. That was the height of the Cold War between the US-led West and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, the USSR, or the Soviet Union, which we call Russia today. On the other hand, it was the height of it. That gave birth to three reasons that the Americans and the Europeans capitalized on to instigate Nigeria's civil war. Three reasons. Number one, the non-aligned movement. You see, America turned out to be the biggest beneficiary of the First and the Second World War. This game they are playing now with Nigeria, they played it against the Europeans. In the First and in the Second World War, they played it and they succeeded fantastically. That gave birth to America as the world's most powerful country, at least on the Western Hemisphere. But they still had the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic to contend with. They didn't like it. So it was the height of the Cold War between the US and the USSR. The US went about forcing countries to align with them against the USSR, the Soviet Union. They were forcing everybody. They succeeded first with Europe because at that time, Europe had been weakened from the effects of the Second World War. Remember, it was only UK. And if the United States had not intervened by dropping the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Hitler would have taken over the United Kingdom. It was just by a hair's breadth that the United Kingdom avoided being conquered. So Europe was hugely weakened. And America took advantage of it. Promise of helping to rebuild, punishment for Hitler and Germany and Japan and all that. They coerced the Europeans to be aligned with the US. And they did that. And after they succeeded, they proceeded to Africa to force Africa to align. But at this time, Africa had a crop of leaders. Yes, Africa had a crop of leaders that were very, very strong on sovereignty, that were very, very strong on Pan-Africanism, right? They took the new rule-based order to effect, yes. In 1944, the Americans, out of their smartness, called for the Bretton Woods Conference. Unknown to the rest of the world, the Bretton Woods Conference, in America's secret, was to replace the Berlin Conference, because when they carried out the Berlin Conference in 1885, America was not given a very strong seat at the table. So that is why when they shared Africa, America did not get any tangible peace. They shared Africa amongst Europe, the Berlin Conference. So America came up with a smart way through the Bretton Woods Conference of 1944 to come up with the concept of sovereignty. That was when the United Nations was birthed. That was when IMF and the World Bank, they were bettered. The World Trade Organization, they were all bettered. It was a strategic move by the US-led West at the time for the US to dominate the world perpetually. But Europe, because they were weakened by the Second World War, did not have much of a choice. They tried to resist, but at the end, America had its way. So the United Nations was born. The UN Charter was created, and then the concept of sovereignty of countries became important. So as a powerful country, you cannot openly interfere in the affairs of another country anymore because you had the UN Charter of Sovereignty. But that did not stop the Americans, because you see, they forced the Europeans to take their hands off Africa by pushing for decolonization after the Second World War. And in any case, Britain or the UK was already weakened, France was already weakened, so they didn't have much of a military force to enforce their colonization agenda. And America, wanting to rewrite the history of the Berlin Conference in 1885 in its favor, pushed for decolonization, pushed for an end to colonization. Unknown to Europe, it is for the ultimate interest of the Americans. They pushed for decolonization because they had a new form of colonization in mind. A remote kind of colonization, which is the neo-colonization that we have at play today. But with Europe weakened and their hands off Africa, America can now truly get their share. Okay, so now they've started having their way, but the only stumbling block on the part of the US was the Soviet Union. And so there was the Cold War. And the 1960s was the height of it. In fact, that's when you had the Cuban Missile Crisis, where America was talking about their Western hemisphere of influence, and that Russia cannot come and put their nuclear weapons in anywhere in their Western area of influence. It was the height of it. But the USSR also was pushing for countries to also align. So, but America was stronger in their push, so they were forcing African countries to align with the US against Russia. And then you had the issue with the Congo DRC because of its vast resources. All of this is about Africa's resources. We're trying to lay a foundation as to why the elite group of people in the US-led West succeeded in playing our leaders against themselves. 3 reasons. The first one is the non-aligned movement. Our leaders then, African leaders across the whole of Africa, from Sylvanus Olympio of Togo to Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana to Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso to Lumumba, and you had a crop of leaders that were against it. So they formed a group and called it the non-aligned movement. Nigeria was amongst them. Tafawa Balewa was a spearheader, was a strong proponent of the non-aligned movement. Along with the non-aligned movement came a far more powerful concept of Pan-Africanism that the elite group of people in the global north would not have. And then add on top of that a third reason, which is nationalism. Because at that time, you had the problem, the oil crisis of Iran, where the Shah was overthrown, the Americans helped to overthrow, the CIA helped to overthrow, and then install their own puppet, and then the Iranians were able to come together and resist and pushed out the American puppet, and then they nationalized British Petroleum and Western oil companies. They nationalized it. So there was the third issue of nationalization. So the eyes of African leaders started getting opened. Oh, we can be non-aligned, which the American-led West did not like. We can be Pan-Africanist. We can come together and form a single African Union with a single currency, with a single military, so that we can develop, so that we can industrialize. The Americans and the Europeans, they did not want that, because they don't want an Africa that is powerful, that is industrialized. They do not want it. And then add on top of that the fear of nationalization of Western assets, particularly oil companies. So in a smart move, the US-led West, this elite group of people, they found a plan to eliminate these leaders. First, they started with coups. They started training our soldiers, inviting them to go to Sandhurst, then in the UK, Sandhurst Royal Academy. They were training our soldiers, and they were putting the thoughts of coup in their minds through a highly advanced psychological operation that is most accurately described as a psychological juju. It works on you, and you will think you are the one doing what you're doing. You will not know that you are doing what they have programmed you to do. That's what they were now doing, putting thoughts of coup in our soldiers and instigating ethnic division, political divisions in them, so that they will do the job. Our Nigerian soldiers will do the job for this global elite. They will just sit down and allow divide and rule, divide and conquer to play out. Our leaders will do the job for them. We'll fight each other to the death. We'll take out one another. And so our first set, our best crop of leaders, our team A, were eliminated through the psychological operation. There are evidence of this. All the coups that have happened in West Africa were traceable to the African Command of the United Nations, of the United States. We saw the video where the US general was being questioned about why the US was seen training the coupists for Burkina Faso, for Niger, for Mali, why they were seen. There's a video of it on the internet. Why they were trained. And then after the training, those coupists went and took the coup. See, many people don't know that there's this Cold War between the US and France, between the US and the UK. We don't know. America wanted the uranium and the resources that the French were enjoying in these French former colonies that were still colonies anyway. They wanted the uranium, they wanted the gold. And so they thought that by supporting the coup against France, they would get an advantage, but they made a mistake. They miscalculated. Instead of the coupists aligning with America, the coupists aligned with Russia. And after kicking France out, they came and kicked the Americans out. Something they still regret till today. But you see, these people have contingencies that have contingencies. They have plan A and a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. But the only way to cure it is first of all understand, how did they do it? How is it that in 2025, Nigerians still do not know that this elite group of people in the US-led West are the people that we should blame for the Nigerian Civil War? You can blame our Nigerian leaders. You can blame the generals or the majors. You can blame the counter-coupists. You can blame all of them. Yes, do. But that would just be treating the symptoms. If you want to cure the disease, you have to go to the root of the matter. The elite group of people in the US-led West. How did they do it? They know how to manipulate. It's called psychological operation, psyops. They have mastered and perfected it. This psyops is stronger than our juju. They have mastered it. So they played you see, when the first coup happened in January of 1966, January 15, very quickly, it was the same Western media that were present that created the narrative that, oh, it's an Igbo coup. And you know, even while the coupists were planning the coup, the Emmanuel Ifajunas, the Gbulie, the Nzogu, Kaduna Nzogu, in fact, Gbulie is on record for having questioned Nzogu, Kaduna Nzogu, at the time and say, who are the people that are involved in this coup? And Nzogu replied and mentioned their names. And he said, these people are mostly Igbo people. Oh. Will they not say later that it was an Igbo coup? This was Ben Gbulie, questioning Nzogu and Ifajuna and Donna Tuzukafo and the rest. But Nzogu fell for the psychological operation of the elite group of people in the US-led West. He fell for it and said, don't worry, it doesn't matter. The elite group of people, the Kolo cabal, they are to blame. And if we don't know this, the mistakes of 1966 will be repeated again. They are being repeated now. They don't want us to benefit from our resources. They don't want us to be self-reliant. They want us to be dependent on them. And they are using certain tools to manipulate our leaders. They did it then. They are still doing it now. If we do not realize it, we will continue to fight each other. IBB came out and said, oh, the January 15, 1966 coup is not an Igbo coup. Meanwhile, he was one of the people that were cajoled. One of the people that their psy-ops juju worked on, that carried out the mutiny in the Ibadan battalion against Igbo leaders. The battalion leader then, Okonweze, was assassinated by the mutiny led by the same Babangida. At that time, the narrative that was pushed on them through the psychological operation of this elite group of people in the US-led West was that it was an Igbo coup. And so the July coup was an anti-Igbo coup. They went about taking the lives of Igbo top military officers. And we fall for it. We're still talking tribalism. We're still talking religion. These are tools they use to divide us. If we do not realize that the real enemy, the disease itself, is this elite group of people in the US-led West, then our problems will continue. If we do not realize that the way they do it is force leaders on us who have comma somewhere and use those comma to blackmail and coerce the leaders to implement rubbish policies that do not benefit us, policies that give access to the resources of Nigeria to this elite group of people in the global north, US-led global north. Those policies, they implemented policies that will keep us dependent on this elite group of people in the US-led West. This is their aim. Once we understand it, then we can deal with it. Like I said before, their contingencies have contingencies. The only way to defeat darkness is to shine light. Because the tool, the single most important ingredient that they use to manufacture the different tools that they are using to force bad leaders on us is corruption. They created corruption. They created avenues for that made corruption, international corruption, possible through foreign direct investment, through foreign trade, multinational corporations, through aid, through debt. You people think Tinubu is just borrowing money. He's been forced to borrow it. And the terms of those loans are such that give away Nigeria's sovereignty. You think a Nigerian is ruling Nigeria? It's the IMF and the World Bank that is doing it indirectly, and it's clear to us. They don't hide it. They're the ones that will tell Tinubu that, oh, subsidy is gone. And Tinubu will come out and say, subsidy is gone. Then they will come back and say, oh, no, subsidy is back. And Tinubu will come out and say, oh, sorry, subsidy is back. Then they will come again and say, remove it, increase the price again. Then they will come and say, oh, subsidy is gone again. Everything the IMF and the World Bank want, they got from Tinubu. This is how they do it. They manipulate our leaders to do their bidding, to enact rubbish policies. So if we must get out of this trap, we must understand how they do this. And then come up with strategies to counter it. If you have read the Confessions of John Perkins in the book, The Confession of an Economic Hitman, you'll understand that it is only by shining light on the activities of this elite group of people in the US-led West, their activities in our country, that is the only way we break free. And the starting point to flush out leaders that have been infected by the influence of this Kolo cabal is to form a political party that is based on ideologies. A political party that levels the playing field, that gives equal opportunities to patriotic Nigerians to serve their country in the interest of their countries first. That political party is what we need. Right now, do we have it in Nigeria? You answer the question. Do we have a political party that creates a level playing field? In America, for you to become a nominee, to become an aspirant, all you need to do is pay $5,000. $5,000 is less than 50% of the annual minimum wage in America, which means that if you are a worker in America, you are not disenfranchised. In fact, to make it even better, if you do not even want to pay the $5,000 or you do not have the $5,000, you can just go to the election body, get 3,000 forms, get 3,000 Americans to sign it. Once you have 3,000 signatures, you don't even need to pay the $5,000 anymore. That way they create a level playing field for everybody to come. Now, in Nigeria, do we have such? No. The political parties you have will come out and argue and say that, oh, if you make it cheap, number one, you cannot run the election because you need money to run the party primaries. Then number two, it will be an all-comers affair. 100 million people will apply to want to be president. It is not true. If you want to run a primaries and you want it to be free and fair, you don't need so much money to run it. You can run a political party primaries electronically for free without spending a dime. But they will use this as an excuse and tell you they need money to run the primaries. And then they will tell you also that, oh, if you make it cheap, then everybody will come. There will be too many people that will want to contest and it will be unmanageable. It is also not true. Because mechanisms will be put in place. Do you have all Americans coming to say they want to run for president? The answer is no. So we need a political party. If the existing ones will not take on this reform to level the playing field, then we must create one. This is the starting point to flushing out the corrupt leaders that have been infected by the influence of this Kolo cabal. Political parties should be direct primaries. That is how it is in America. That is how it is everywhere. But when they now come with the concept of indirect primaries, where you now need delegates, what happens? You are creating the platform, the foundation for aspirants to buy delegates. That is where corruptions begin to start. So if we want to fix it, we need a political party that levels that playing field. Do we have it in the existing political parties? I stand to be corrected, no. If we don't have it, then we can form it. A political parties that believe that, oh, we must institutionalize social welfare. If Nigerians are broke, they don't have to start looking for powerful people, divine connection, destiny helper. No, they don't have to start looking for that. That's not how they do it in America. If you earn less than $19,000 per annum in the US, you are entitled to social welfare support. It is not so much, so you can't say you will not work and depend on it. But so far as you are an American and you earn less than $19,000 US every year, What happens is that automatically you don't need to know the president, you don't need to know the governor, you don't need to know anybody. By law, you just apply to Social Security, they check your Social Security number to verify your account details, and they send money directly into your account. You don't need any intermediary. We need a political party that will push this agenda. Do we have it now? The answer is no. And so many other ideologies. You must give right of first refusal to local Nigerian companies first. You must give right of first refusal to local Nigerian manufacturers first if you are serious as a government to developing your economy. Are we seeing that now? No. This is part of the policies that this elite group of people want, and they force our leaders to implement. And our leaders know that these policies are against our own interests as Nigerians, but they implement it anyway because it gives them the opportunity to get peanuts as benefit. Those peanuts may be big, maybe cars abroad, the latest houses, big houses and all that. So far as they get those, they don't mind selling their brother and sister Nigerians into modern slavery. That is what your leaders are doing. They spent 160 million to buy SUVs, Land Cruisers, Prado, Escalade, and all that. Which developed country do you see that their president drives a car that is made by a foreign country? You never find it. The other time that Xi Jinping visited America, they carried their own Chinese-made presidential vehicle all across the ocean, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, to America. And Xi Jinping was bragging about the car to Joe Biden. And Joe Biden turned around and said, you see my own? That is the car. They call it the Beast. Oh, it's a wonderful car. They were bragging about their own presidential cars that were made by their own corporations. The same thing it is with the French. The same thing it is with the British. The same thing it is with the Russians. But when it comes to Nigeria, we pride ourselves in even the small assembly plants that we have, we don't patronize them. We abandon them and then we go international. We need a political party that believes in the ideology of giving right of first refusal to Nigerian companies and investing in the 4 critical parts that a Tinubu administration will not dare to invest in. Will not dare to invest in. We'll talk about those 4. They will not dare to invest in it. Homegrown agricultural solution, they're not born Tinubu where make invest in them. Steel and fabrication technology, they're not born them where make invest in them. Local software solutions, they're not born them where making try them. Local semiconductor technology, they're not born them where. The elite group of people in the US-led West, their hands are on him like this. Do our bidding or else. What happened to Buhari with the NSAS will happen to you. And so Tinubu is excited in doing their bidding. What gives a Tinubu the boldness to say, no matter how you protest, I will do it? Because he knows that so long as he's pushing the agenda that the IMF and the World Bank and the US-led West like, there's nothing you people can do. No amount of protest can work. He knows. But the solution is to create a political party that levels the political playing field so that a new crop of leaders will phase out these corrupt leaders that have been infected by the influence of the elite group of people in the global north. We need you to join us to create this party. It's not going to be easy, but it is doable. It will be hard, but it is possible. Let us work together. You see the way they are realigning. Let us realign too. There's a link in the description for you to support us. I want to use the opportunity to thank those of you that are supporting already. Please, God bless you. This is a remarkable investment you're making into your country. Because if we succeed with this, Nigeria will change forever for the better. We thank you for your support. We are calling on others to seize the opportunity to support us, to activate this plan. Please. So that Nigeria can change. If we don't activate this plan, forget it. 2027, will just be a repeat of 2023. We're not working so that we can win in 2027. If we work fast enough, we can start winning even before 2027. But if we don't work fast enough, it doesn't matter. If we don't get it in 2027, we can get it 2031. But we must start working right now. Send your donations and contributions to the account in the description. And click the link in the description to join us to create this Abundance Party of Nigeria. Let us take this country back. This is the only way. It is not by protest. It is not by gra-gra. We don't have the resources to face them on that front, but we can shine light on the activities, because when light shines, darkness disappears. We're waiting for you.